Es hora de abandonar Pensilvania y dirigirme a Cleveland en Ohio, sin dudas el punto más alto de la gira, a la hora de ver de cerca el ciclo de esplendor y decadencia de una ciudad emblemática del Medio Oeste. Cleveland no solo fue el Silicon Valley de principios del siglo XX, tal como conversamos con Naomi Lamoró en la Universidad de Yale, sino también un núcleo fundamental de la toma de decisiones políticas en Estados Unidos, al punto que el estado de Ohio en su conjunto colocó 7 presidentes entre 1870 y 1930. Basta con hacerse una escapada al cementerio Lakeview en la monumental avenida Euclid para tener 2 señales inmediatas del poderío de esta ciudad en aquellos tiempos: la tumba de John Rockefeller y del expresidente James Garfield. Sin embargo, así como esta ciudad fue en aquel tiempo referencia inevitable de innovación, dinamismo empresarial y poder político, hoy es una de las ciudades que mejor ilustra la declinación del Medio Oeste y no solo de su cinturón industrial en particular. Hoy es innegable que esta ciudad vive un proceso de reconversión y mejoramiento urbano, con historias de éxito como el complejo de servicios de salud alrededor de la Cleveland Clinic. Pero ello igual no impidió que su población se contrajera en los últimos 40 años casi en un 50%. Quizá fue premonitorio, pero el Partido Republicano eligió Cleveland como sede de la convención donde ungirían a su candidato a presidente, sin saber aún que Trump ganaría las primarias y que contaría con el mejor telón de fondo posible para hacer retumbar su nostálgico eslogan Make America Great Again. En este sentido, la historia de Cleveland no es solo su propia historia, sino que en cierta medida es una historia donde se ven reflejadas las pequeñas ciudades más cercanas como Brook Park y otras más distantes como Youngstown, que hoy enfrenta una pérdida acumulada de 1/4 de su población desde el año 1980.
You organized a couple of months ago, you organized here an activity for Mr. Trump. Being a mayor of the Democratic Party, it's a strange thing. Why you support Mr. Trump nomination?
Well, what was looked at last March as kind of a phenomenon has become the reality. I think most folks in America have come to the conclusion that neither party is offering any resolution to their problems. On the Democratic side, you saw people in overwhelming numbers come out and support Bernie Sanders, which was against the grain challenger. On the other side, you saw Donald Trump. And what interested me about Donald Trump was the most is that I have a huge Ford facility in Brook Park, Ohio. At one time employed almost 17,000 people. We had a huge foundry here, largest foundry in North America. They shut that foundry down and several thousand people were displaced from working. And Ford cast their engines in Mexico, so we had a direct correlation into the message that Donald Trump was talking about. And where he has been unique as a candidate, he talked about corporate responsibility in America, saying, you know, Ford Motor Company, you have a responsibility to this nation. Even though now you're an international corporation, you still want to be treated as an American corporation. And that challenge that he proffered to corporate America told me that this man understood what the basic problem of the middle class of the nation is, and they're losing good opportunities for good employment, for good wages to take care of their family. So we organized one of the biggest rallies he had early on at our IX Center here in Cleveland, right by the airport, without incident. The Cleveland police did a great job in security. We didn't have any problems. And Donald Trump got up and talked about thousands of jobs that were lost right here in the Cleveland area. So that's why I supported him. And I think for most Americans, the lines are blurred. What do the two parties stand for? They clearly don't stand for the people of the nation or their interests. It's obvious by the way they're voting. And so Donald Trump's challenge to the elite leadership of both parties is what the American people are crying out for. We've known Donald Trump for 30 years. We knew that he was a playboy. We knew that he was part of the exciting scene of New York City. We've known all those things, okay? And the fact of the matter is he's challenging the very core of government. You're right, he's not a politician. He sees a problem, he wants to solve it. All right? Again, every country, I believe, has a right to secure its borders, determine who lives in the country. I believe every country has a right to do that. And I think they also have an obligation to their citizens to provide the best quality of life that they possibly can. And I think Donald Trump sees that and is really just saying what regular folks feel. And they're trying to attack him. In other words, a Trump supporter is someone who is uneducated. A Trump supporter is someone that really doesn't understand. A Trump supporter is someone who reacts to emotion. Well, they're all of those things and more, all right? The fact of the matter, business people understand, small business people understand what Obamacare is doing to their business. Small business people understand what the tax rate and why there's not investment. Business people understand all the money sitting offshore that should come back to the country, all right? And by America being parochial in those attitudes, they can therefore help the world, all right? This nation is part of our legacy is to be for the downtrodden and the castaway, and we're always going to be for that. What's complicated things now is our own security. How do we deal with these things in our own country? And we can't be right for somebody else and help somebody else until we get our own house in order. And that's what I see him saying. All right. My only criticism, sometimes he gets off in personal tangents and things like that. As a president, you cannot do. But the fact of the matter is that this country, and therefore the world, is challenged if America has a problem here at home. And that's why he, as a non-politician, who will say what he feels, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, there's no polish to what he says. And I think that's another appealing thing to him as a candidate. Donald Trump's appeal is Donald Trump may or may not be richer than Mitt Romney. We don't know that. But the difference is he's unapologetic about it. He doesn't say, I'm a rich guy, I don't understand your problems. He's a rich guy who his whole life has been challenged, he's been denied by folks saying, he's just some chump from Brooklyn. All right, so he's had to prove his whole life in success. And he's saying to you, I want you to enjoy my success.
Youngstown was the center of the steel activity, the steel industry around a century ago, or maybe 50 years. Yeah. What happened in relation to steel industry here, and what are the perspective after the steel times?
Well, in 1977, a large amount of the steel mills here locally started to close up, and that work was sent overseas to Japan and other countries. So from 77 to 80, you had probably 25,000 jobs in the steel industry that were lost in the area, and that really has knocked our city backwards. Even today, 40 years later, we're still trying to begin the process of moving forward again. Well, it was a struggle. In the mid-1960s, our population was 165,000 people. Our city's population now is 65,000. So the infrastructure that's built around our city, the water lines, the sewer lines, our roadways, our housing stock, was built for a population 2.5 times the size of the city right now. And so our city budget, our city activities are kept busy every single day trying to basically maintain a city that's a third of the size that it used to be. And that takes a lot of money. We will not recover it to the extent that it used to exist here in Ohio and in the northeast corner of Ohio. We have some steel fabricating plants that still exist that do good work, but nothing like we used to have here. We have a smaller company area that is closing down over about a 1.5 year time frame, and their jobs are moving to the state of North Carolina, and they're also moving to China. So although I think Mr. Trump speaks very well about what he'd like to do, I've yet to hear anything or see anything from him how he's going to help us here in Youngstown. I think his message is very simple. It's a very simple one that people understand. He says, I can do this, I'm going to do that. Those people are losers, they're jerks, they're wimps. Those are very simple lines that people understand, and I think it shows a frustration with Washington, D.C., and with our federal government. But I'm just not sure how, at a practical matter, he's going to improve the life of the city residents here in Youngstown. I think folks are just very frustrated with the inaction or the slow pace of activity in Washington, D.C. We all like our local congressperson, but when they all get together in D.C. and they fight about Supreme Court justices, they fight about this, they fight about that, they pretty much spend this year on a campaign trail. They're not working for local residents, and they want to see more constructive activities out of leaders in Washington. They're not seeing that now. I think that's what frustrates them the most. If you can be somebody who's not from Washington and you're a businessman, and some folks will say, well, he's not that successful of a businessman because he's had all these bankruptcies. Well, he seems like he's doing okay to me. So he's been in the business world. He's not a traditional person from Washington, D.C. I don't think he's ever run for office before. He speaks very simply, and he speaks in a way that people can understand what he's saying. I think they're fine with that, and I think that's why he's done so well over the past 1.5 years.
Hopefully he lives up to what he says. He wants, make America great again. What does that mean? I don't know.